everybody, it is Romania Black, and yeah, my walls look a little bare right now. Bocchi was just too extreme. Too much partying. It just tore the house down. No, you can kind of see it in the floor. I have some bookshelves that have finally come in. I ordered them like back in January and they finally showed up like 5 months later. #America. And so I'm finally going to be getting them to go on this back wall to redo it. So for this video and a couple others on the channel, it's going to look a little scarce up in here for the time being. But by next week, I should hopefully have the new shelves up and it look a lot different. So that's exciting. But yeah, last week was the Rule of 8. The Rule of 8 did not let us down. The concert was amazing. Bocchi just became a badass and was cementing herself as the rock, the foundation of her band. Bocchi the Rock. Roll credits. So I thought that was pretty awesome. I thought episode 8 was amazing. And I was like, damn, that pretty much felt like the end of a series, but it's probably just more of an end of an arc, right? So we're going to be diving into episode 9 and doing that. And before we do that, I do want to talk about a couple of comments that have been left for episodes 6 and 7. So both Pretentious Namo 1 and H Banana 7 in episodes 6 and 7 noted that they hadn't seen anywhere else, but apparently Jimmy Hen, which is the name of the dog, is named for Jimi Hendrix. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So that's a cute name. I like that. H Banana 7 for episode 7 also said, in the stop motion animation, they all chant all for one, one for all. But there's a play here on Hitori's name. All for Hitori, Hitori for everybody. I remember that now, so that makes sense, and that's really funny, which is kind of cool to bring up because later on in episode 8, we have Kita, who kind of jokes about how her name is a pun. There's all these, like, it's almost fourth wall breaking because the characters' names are puns. Like, you know, you have Bocchi and her sister are like Kid 1 and Kid 2, so that's kind of funny. So I like the idea of this being like a kind of an inside joke that the show gives us. Then we have Kaguya. Kaguya6900 for episode 6 says, one little subtle point that I absolutely loved is when Bocchi opens her eyes, or eye, and realizes that the people there are all rooting for her. The streetlights choose that moment to come on and lighten up the venue, which was such a good little touch. Episode 6 was really good. I'd say episode 8's been my favorite so far, but episode 6 is getting right up there. They also say the title of 8 Views is actually a translation of Hake, the name of the location where they are. The place where Bocchi lives is right near an island called Hake, and the station across the street from where Bocchi meets the Magenta bassist is right across the street from Kanagawa Hake Station. By the way, Hake Island is where the fireworks show was happening. It's got a small amusement park on it and several other attractions. Hake is also the title of an Asian Kung Fu Generation song, like most of the titles in the show. Nearly all of the locations in Bocchi are real-life locations, and I found on Google Maps where Bocchi and the bassist played their outdoor impromptu concert, as well as the temple where Bocchi was at the station. I thought this was really cool. Some people in the Discord, so if you are over on Patreon and you're in the Discord, you've probably noticed this too, but some people over in the Discord were really cool and shared pictures of some of the locations and things that they had found. And I always think that's really cool. I know Ace of the Diamond has done this. I know March Comes In Like a Lion has done this. But whenever a series can take real life locations and incorporate them into their show, I think that's really fascinating. And it gives you like somewhere to go. So if you're like a tourist and you want to go check out someplace, you can be like, oh, I want to go to where the outdoor concert where Bocchi and the bassist was at. And you can find that location. I mean, it's pretty ingenious marketing for Japan because they're like, anime is not only a Japanese thing, but it's also a global thing. So if you want to bring in tourists, you give them places to go. If you watch Jujutsu Kaisen, you go to Shibuya. If you watch Bungo Stray Dogs, you want to go find Lupin's bar. Like, you know, those are all places that I'm like, oh, I've seen that in shows. I want to go there. So I think that's cool that Bocchi kind of invests in that as well. It's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. And then Floyd Morgan for episode 7 says, I used to think that the Nausicaa reference in the episode was the real test of an anime appreciator. Do people recognize it when they see it? Now I realize it's not you, it's me. I'm just old. Look, I don't take offense to that, but I'm also old as well. So, and I feel like I should have gotten the Nausicaa reference because I literally just watched it last fall. I was like, wait, a Nausicaa reference. But yeah, so in episode 7, where Bocchi melts and becomes the ash and then the spores like scatter all about, I was like, oh, that's the reference, right? So I think that's the reference. I'm guessing that's the reference. If I'm wrong, comment down below. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So I think that's the one. But yeah, so I'm excited. We have 4 more episodes. We're at least going to be introducing another arc, if anything. So that's exciting. I mean, I'm not going to spoil Given, but Given, that series, which has a lot to do with bands and things like that, you should go watch Given. It's Pride Month. Go do it. And so I think that it had a couple episodes after the penultimate episode, so it wasn't like a quick resolution. It had some episodes afterwards, and I really liked that. So I'm all here for Bocchi doing the same thing. And plus, we need to see now that Bocchi's got this confidence, what are we going to do with it? So I guess we'll find out. But yeah, anyway, I'm excited. I hope you all are as well. But we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive into Bocchi the Rock episode 9. Thank you so much for your kind words and your comments. And we're going to get this started here in 3, 2, 1. And let's do it to it, Lars. This episode was hilarious. This episode was everything I needed coming off of the last episode, episode 8. This was absolutely needed, and I'm so excited. So yeah, and just when you think every gag in this episode was perfectly executed from start to finish, every gag, every reference, I'm sure I missed references. There were some I got and I was like, oh, I see what you're doing there. But yeah, the idea of, oh no, our summer is coming to it. No, it actually was just the middle. So the sad thing is that it was August 15th and they had until the last day, and Bocchi spent a solid 10 of those days not doing anything because she couldn't muster up the courage to tell her friends that they needed to go out. So I do appreciate, I totally get where Bocchi's coming from though, because it's so easy even for myself. And I can be a pretty social person if I don't have Bocchi's problem of if I'm in a social circle, I can be a Kita. I can perform Kita if I need to because my job requires me to perform being Kita quite often. But I feel like I'm not as exuberant as Kita. I'm more of like a Najika, I guess. Maybe I can perform Najika if I need to. But if I'm at home, it's very easy to be like Bocchi and be like, well, we could go out, but I know everybody's really busy. We're off doing our own things, so I don't know. It's so easy to be Bocchi, though. And I've had weeks where I've been Bocchi, where there have been like weeks on end when I could have contacted my friends and be like, hey, let's figure out something and go out. And I just stayed at home. It's so easy to do. And I feel like COVID made it easier to do, but you just kind of, especially if you're an introvert, my friend and I, my best friend's an extrovert. My best friend is a Kita for sure. And I am probably more of a Rio than a Bocchi, but my friend and I described it as when you are an extrovert, you soak in the energy from your atmosphere, from your location, right? You're being energized by your location. And so like my best friend is kind of like Kita. Whenever Kita is outside and there's all the people and all the things going around, it amps her up and hypes her up. And my best friend's like that too. When she's around lots of people and there's a party and everything, she gets more hyped up and she's like, yeah, let's do this. But then when it's like just 3 people, she's like, okay, well, that's fine. But she gets all of her energy from big crowds and lots of outdoor activities and stuff like that and socialization. Whereas I feel like if you're an introvert, you need to go home and be alone to recharge. It's kind of like if you're an extrovert, your battery's like a solar panel where you're getting it, you're outside amongst other people and you gain all the energy that way. If you're inside, you got to plug it in and charge it up. And I'm more of like an introvert. Like I need to plug it up, like charge at home, get myself charged up and then go out and do things, right? Because when I came back from my vacation, it was great. We had a lot of fun, but those next 2 days I was like crashed, I was just like, need to recharge. And now I'm just starting to get back to being recharged as a person. So yeah, so I understand Bocchi like wanting to stay at home and she's just in there practicing her guitar all day. And I think that there is something to that because, you know, if this were a story about Bocchi, if it was like a battle shonen where Bocchi was a guitar player and she had to fine tune her craft and everything, then her staying at home and practicing guitar all day would be very admirable and would be like, everybody be like, oh my gosh, Bocchi, for you. And her sister kind of views it that way, which makes that whole monologue by her sister that much more hilarious because she's like 5 and she's also the polar opposite of Bocchi and she's an extreme extrovert. So that makes it even more funny. But yeah, but Bocchi, you know, she has the one picture of her and her friends back up. She's opened up the curtains, but she's sitting there practicing guitar and then thinks that, you know, that's how she's going to pass on the days. But she's like, I'm not doing anything differently. And playing guitar is fun, but she's like, I really want to hang out with my friends and I have a clear schedule, but you know, it's usually clear regardless of work, but keeping it clear has a different feel, which is very true. But she's like, nobody has suggested hanging out, but what do they usually do? She's like, I mean, we should all be practicing, but she's like, I would like to hang out. So then she looks at her phone and the band says, can anyone take my shift tomorrow? I've got stuff to do. And that's Nijika. And then Rio says, I can take it. And then she says, okay, and has the gratitude. Little gratitude to cat emoji, which is really funny, right? But yeah, so I like that we got kind of an insight into what everyone was doing while Bocchi's like, where would we want to go? And she imagined 3 places, which these are all, 2 of the places are where they've been before. Like the one with the big giant metal pipes, which I was like, why would you go there? That's where they did like one of the photo shoots. So maybe that's supposed to be Kita. And then the outdoor swings, maybe that's supposed to represent Nijika. And then because that's where Nijika met her. And then Rio with the books, I guess because it's like an isolated loner place. Maybe that's why she proposed that. But yeah, she's like, I can't think of a plan that would satisfy everyone, but I need to gather up the courage. I love that Nijika has the macarons by her little Dorito hairpiece. And she's like, let me just call Nijika. But then she can't work up the courage to do it, right? And honestly, I can understand. I always think that Gen Z doesn't like calling at all, and Gen Alpha, what even is calling? I'm a millennial, so we didn't have a choice. Back in the day, I mean, we could text, but you had to pay for texts. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember paying per text message back in those days, as I wave my cane around. But yeah, I feel like calling was much more of a thing that my generation did. And I feel like when I talk to students on the team I coach, they're like, calling? But you can text. And I was like, no, that's fair. Whoever would pick calling over text messaging, understandable. I get it. But yeah, I understand the feeling of like sometimes you just get stressed out because again, Bocchi has that feeling of what if I'm rejected? What if I reach out to Nijika and the others to ask for a day of us hanging out and they ridicule me or they can't do it? Well, then what do we do? So I understand her like feeling of, oh, I'll just worry about it later. And it wasn't even time for bed. Her mom was like, come down here and eat your food. Like, she's like, I'm sure one of them will make the offer sooner or later. So we see Nijika taking care of her sister, working late hours. So we see her working at home. We see Rio off getting clothes by herself and hanging out. And then we see Kita doing the polar opposite, hanging out with all of her friends and like doing all of her Instagram posts and everything, which it all fits each of their. Nijika is a helper, so she's helping her sister. Rio is a loner, so she's off doing her own thing. Kita is someone that has to be around people socializing all the time, so she's doing that. So yeah, they each have found ways to do their summers. And then Bocchi is oddly enough the most like Rio, just an isolationist rather than a loner. She would rather isolate herself than just go off and do it, right? Where Rio is courageous enough to just go off on her own. Bocchi is the polar opposite of that. But again, we've got like the axis of socialness, and Bocchi and Rio are like on polar ends of one axis, and Nijika and Kita are on the other ends of another axis. So it makes for a fun time. The whole thing with the theory of relativity, I love whenever Bocchi's mind goes into a deep state. It starts to like extrapolate physics principles. And I mean, if Bocchi isn't careful, she could rival Light Yagami. I mean, the inner monologues of Bocchi are enough to rival Light Yagami from Death Note. I mean, Bocchi and L would be a great team. I'm just saying. But, oh my God. This entire thing was amazing. I love this. She's like, I'm stuck in a black hole. Which, you could spiral into like a social anxiety black hole if you're not careful. Or you can get stuck in a spiral and it's hard to break out of it, right? So the representation of Bocchi in the darkness and her sisters in the light just blissfully unaware. I don't want to say that Bocchi has depression because that feels like it's getting darker than it should be, but I could see her being prone to it. So, it's good for her to get out and her friends to make her get out as well, right? And she's like, I'm in a black hole. And then we have Futari drawing Bocchi on the ground, August 30th, sis, another day, nowhere, lying around, really funny. Oh my God, Futari, seriously. Then we have the OP. So I didn't know what ENOSHIMA ESCAR meant, but it means escalator, which is hilarious. So it's funny that they start to notice that Bocchi has been kind of staring off into space and not talking. And Rio's like, well, that sounds normal. And then Chica's like, oh, well, maybe it's a little bit more serious than usual. And that's when Kita's like, she started spontaneously dancing the samba, which is like Bocchi trying to overcompensate when she thinks people are going to be like, oh no, she's like, I'm not boring. And then she just does the samba instead. And Rio being a loner is kind of non-observant, but Kita is especially observant. So again, opposite ends of the spectrum. And that's when Seika's like, can you please have Bocchi knock it off? And she's making... The fact that she's making 3 graves, almost, I'm like, was it the 3 graves for her 3 friends and her 3 failed attempts to hang out with them? Oh my gosh. But yeah, like dying cicadas, the death of summer, her not wanting to go back to school, which Bocchi, school is a source of anxiety for her. So whenever Kita said that she would start hanging out with her at school, I'm like, well, that would be great because Bocchi needs somebody to talk to at school. So that school's not a miserable experience of her being by herself. So that'd be great, right? And then Seika's like, hey, have you guys hung out this summer? While you were working. I asked her what she did with her time off. And then her story about teaching her sister guitar. And then her sister's like, today I asked my sister to teach me to play guitar, which is super cute. Her sister's a really great drawer. I thought it was awesome how my sister stayed inside practicing day after day. Then I have too many things to do and too many friends to play with over summer break. And she drew Bocchi with like sweat drops coming down her, which is so damn funny. Oh my God. So I can't stand one practice every day like her, but she's awesome because of that. Like, at least her sister thinks she's cool. Her sister thinks that Bocchi is really awesome because she's so committed. And even though Bocchi doesn't interpret that the same way, and she's like, her words sent me into a spiral and I ended up not getting out of bed for days. Like, Bocchi goes on an extreme emotional roller coaster so easily. And Seika's like, yeah, you guys need to like take her out. Why didn't you tell us? And Kita, I like Kita saying that she wanted to invite Bocchi, and this makes a lot of sense, but Kita constantly hangs out with new people and goes and does all of these different things, and she seems like a pretty fast-paced girl that likes to fit in lots of things, throughout the day. So for Bocchi, I do think Kita was being a little bit concerned that it would be overwhelming, right? And Nijika, meanwhile, is like, well, I've not really been doing anything. I've just been at home cleaning up and doing things. And Rio's like, oh, I thought you two had asked her. Rio's over here like having a movie night by herself, watching scary movies, which I don't know. I think of all 3 of them, Bocchi would probably be most comfortable around Nijika or Rio, because probably Nijika, because Nijika would just be doing like housework and stuff that Bocchi would find like, low stakes. But with Rio, watching scary movies and shopping and doing things, that still would be kind of like maybe stressful for Bocchi. But yeah, poor Bocchi. They're like, we need to go out. They're like, you should change your band name because you guys are definitely not banding together. And then he puts a giant final like grave marker into the sand. Kita's like, we need to go to the beach. We need to have a beach episode. We'll just go straight to Enoshima. And then we'll be fine. We can practice anytime. We don't have a band. We don't have any like concerts scheduled. We'll be great. We'll use this last day of summer to make some memories. I just love it. And I love that they're talking about the tropical love, and it's the two guitars on the beach together. Feels like Greece, tropical love forever, which anytime like a romance is brought up, that's like Bocchi's worst nightmare. She's like, no, don't want that. But God, I also, by the way, love all of their fashion. I love Kita's dress and Nijika's outfit and Rio with this kind of goth, kind of like chic glam. Love it. But yeah, they decide to like drag her while she's docile onto the train. Scary tropical. Yeah. So they talk about the schools that they're from, and Kita realizes that maybe she should say hi to her because their school is actually pretty low key and it would be easy to get away with stuff there. Whereas Nijika and Rio talk about how strict their school is. So then there's this thing about an investigation into the weight of bagworms based on environment and the observation on the life cycle of a honeybee. And it's all these scientific terms and everything. It's wild. It's like they're a prep school. Now, Rio being a crammer is not surprising. That's where I'm kind of like, I feel like for work, I have to be a Nijika, but in reality, I think I'm closer to Rio than I am Bocchi. Because Rio, I mean, when I was testing in school, I was like, I could be a cram person, right? Like I liked learning things for English, but if it was math or science, I was like, let's just cram this, do the test, and then I usually forgot about it. So I can understand Rio trying to, perform well enough to get by, right? Matches her personality. And of course, Kita is like, this is not the vision of Rio that I wanted in my memory. That's not my fantasy. So I need to delete this conversation so that I can just go back to envisioning Rio as I need to, for my own crush. But yeah, they're like, Bocchi, what are you seeing right now? And the thing that's so sad is that while Bocchi is knocked out, they're talking about how much fun she is and how cool she is. I'm like, Bocchi is such a great person. And they all three think that. But Bocchi doesn't believe it herself, which is really sad. So yeah, they're like, let's take a picture, Goda-san. And then they finally get to the beach and Bocchi starts to liven up. And then just as she's livening up, this guy's like, hey girls. And Bocchi's like, oh my God. Which granted, if I saw a bunch of beach bros approach me immediately, like trying to solicit me to go visit their stuff, I'd be like, no. They also, all three of them had the same glasses, and they were just, the way they were moving around in a circle reminded me of, there's a series of three guys from Revolutionary Girl Lieutenant that kind of do the same move. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous as they're running away. So then they go to the Enoshima fried taco senbai, like the Asahi shop. And I like that they made like the smushed takoyami or what do they call it? They like use a ton of force, pressed takoyaki. Like they made it look like an entirely different texture and different. It looked like a piece of paper slapped onto the animation cell. It didn't even look like it was drawn. It just looked like a piece of photo that they just inserted for it. It was crazy. But yeah, and of course, Kita has her selfie stick out like at any given second to take the picture. And then, yeah, and Bocchi, like for Bocchi, that one trip to the takoyaki like press stand was enough. That's all she needed. She just needed to hang out with them, have a very quick memory, and be like, that was enough for this introvert. And the Kita's like, no, that's not enough. We can't just stop there. She's like, no, we're not done. The summer's not coming to an end yet. So she takes them up to the top of this shrine, right? To the very top of the observation deck. Now, one thing, those little gotcha machines, I saw on my trip, I was in Las Vegas, and I saw a ton of those. And I even saw a Bocchi the Rock one. And I almost stopped and got one, but I was like, I don't need it. So I'm going to save my money. But I almost got one because it was very, very tempting. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm kind of like Kita in the sense of once I got to the top and did all that work to get up there, I would want to savor it, take a ton of pictures, and just soak it all in. I would be like Kita in that regard. If it took me a lot of effort and pain to get up to the top of that damn shrine, I would stay up there long enough to take a bunch of pictures, soak it in, and appreciate the view before going back down. I wouldn't immediately turn back around. So I felt bad for her in that respect, but girl, I would not have taken all those stairs. No way. If I'd saw that escalator, I'd been like, abso-freaking-lutely, we're taking the escalator. But yeah, Kita has such the extrovert glow. She's been amplified by the sun. And she's like, come on, everyone, let's hurry up. Come on. And Rio's like, I hate this. Every second of this. And Bocchi just dies. Bocchi doesn't even make it. She just crawls. So yeah. And then that's when Bocchi sees the escalator. We could just go instead of climbing the top of the stairs. Now, Rio not having any money, I am not like Rio like that. If I'm going on a vacation or a trip, girl, I will come prepared. I am not going to be the one that has to borrow money. Absolutely not. So I was like, girl, don't be selling your bases just to get to the top of the observation tower. But Bocchi is nice enough to loan her money. And she's like, you know, you'll pay me back next month, right? And I love that Rio's like, when have I ever lied? And she's like, well, you didn't pay me for that restaurant back in episode 4. It's like, and Rio's like, oh God. And that's when Nijika's like, I'll just take it out of her check. And she's like, you're a human. So yeah, the observation deck, like it looked beautiful. The views looked great there. I love we have the tropical love couple that's out to the side with the same star glasses. They literally looked like the heterosexual version of Joe and Cherry from Skate the Infinity. And I'm not even lying. I love they kind of just skedaddled away from them. Like, nope, don't want to be here for this. But yeah, they're like, oh, the best part about this observation deck is the air conditioning. And then Rio uses this moment instead of soaking the views, which look amazing, by the way. Instead of doing that, she's like, you know what? Man tried to play God before with the Tower of Babel, and we saw how that turned out, so let's go. Like, the reference is ridiculous. Ridiculous, y'all. Ridiculous. Like, my favorite part was the air conditioning. So, the soft serve sounded amazing. Now, sea salt soft serve sounds hella good because I love salt and sweet together. I'm the weird person that will dip my salty French fries into a vanilla ice cream cone. It's amazing, and I'll take no other takers or comments against it. So I don't know. I don't know if I would do the orange and the vanilla, but the sea salt, yes. And she's like, weren't you eating the sea salt earlier? She's like, I've always got room for ice cream. And Bocchi's like, please pay me back. So yeah, she's like, I just need one more thing to do. Now, when they said the kites, I thought they looked up and saw the birds and they were like, oh, there's a kite thing over here and we can do the activity of flying kites because that would be fun, like the bird. But no, instead, this kept reminding me of Ping Pong, which I've watched on this channel. Go watch Ping Pong. It's amazing. But in that, there's a quick scene where the bird's like, caca, and the kite like comes down and takes the food. Oh my God, hilarious. But I was not expecting Bocchi to be targeted like a damn Alfred Hitchcock movie and targeted by the birds. Which is like, she looks weak. Teach her a lesson. Even the birds look down upon her. Now, the whole she looks weak and even the birds look down upon her. When they all clear and there's the crater and Bocchi is in the fetal position there, it is, if you don't know, a direct reference to Yamcha from Dragon Ball Z getting attacked by the Cybermen, who are like the weakest villain of the entire series. That's been my favorite reference so far, is the Yamcha reference. I was not expecting it, but it's so on brand and perfect for Bocchi. I literally can't get over that they made a Dragon Ball Z reference. I cannot get over it. I'm living. Toriyama would be so proud. But yeah, Toriyama would actually love Bocchi, I feel. I think that he would. But yeah, so they're like, we can't stay out too late, so we should head back. And Bocchi's in bad shape from being attacked by birds. What? Oh my God. So they stop by the shrine. I feel like one of the most relatable things about Bocchi is you have Nijika making this beautiful, heartfelt, humble wish. And then Bocchi's like, shit, I was making this vain wish. Because it's so relatable. Like, we all would like to be Nijikas. Nijika's a pretty selfless person. Everybody needs a Nijika in a friend group. But I feel like not all of us are Nijikas. And I could relate to Bocchi in this point. I was like, girl, I would have done the same. But I don't think it's too selfless to wish for time to go back, right? And she's like, oh, please, God, let's turn back time. Either that or give me fame and fortune so that I never go hungry. Also, I love the fact that Rio is the first person to pass out. Rio like used up all her loner energy, and now she's like, time to go to sleep, and then she just passes out slowly. And then you have slowly Najika passing out as well. Now, Kita, in true extrovert fashion, was like, I could keep this train going. I could keep on doing more things, but she's like, fine, you guys want to come back, that's okay. And I like Bocchi. Bocchi, I feel very relatable in this moment because she's like, I wish we could have stayed out a little bit longer, but she's not someone that would want to go out every single day. She's like, her batteries are recharged, could have been out a little bit longer, but now I feel refreshed. And she's like, I feel like I can take on the first day of school. And then, that's when Kita's like, we could spend all of winter hanging out as a band. And she's like, we can make memories every single day. And Bocchi's like, every single day is too much. Maybe every other day or every 3 days. But she's like, And she's like, I liked that we saw Rio and Najika with their heads next to each other. And Kita's like, you can rest if you want, Goto-san. I'll wake you up. I see where the Kita and Bocchi ship comes from. I see the vision this episode. I'm with you. I hear you. I can see it. And Bocchi's like, well, I kind of was unconscious the entire ride up here, so I'm fine. And she's like, well, then the fun will continue till we get you home. And then Bocchi says, I really enjoyed hanging out with you all. I think I can face school tomorrow. Probably. And Kita says she's glad to hear it. But I was expecting her to say like, oh, hey, I'll talk to you at school, like to give Bocchi a heads up that's going to happen so that Bocchi doesn't freak out. But if she said that, Bocchi might have freaked out and not come to school. So instead she says, let's enjoy the new term together, which works perfect. That covers all bases without being too specific. And she's like, this memory of summer will fuel me through winter break. All in good theory, right? Until the next day when she's like, I hate this. She's like, I don't want to go. It's very much like when she was like, I'm ready for the next day of work and then made herself sick. Mm-hmm. But in her defense, she's like, my muscles are so sore, I can't move. And my favorite is that when Futari comes to get her, she's like, I'll get you, sis. And it's like the giant monster getting close to the screen. Oh my God. So then we see the school flyers. It's back to school. There's a bunch of hygiene ones, a bunch of ones for soccer and karate and baseball. Kita's seeing her friends. They're like, oh, we saw your Insta photos of Enoshima. And she's like, thanks. And then we see this festival poster that says the 31st annual Shuka Festival, stage performers wanted on October 1st and October 2nd. So that's a month. That's a solid month, right? It says Shuka High School Gym, request for stage time in the box and for the student council room. A participant interview will take place after applications are received. Groups will need to explain stage crew requirements. The deadline is September 16th for the Shuka High School Culture Festival Executive Committee. Now, here's the thing. I don't think that Najika and Rio could be part of this because they go to a different high school. Kita could. So would Kita and Bocchi team up together and have Kita sing and Bocchi play guitar? Or would Bocchi sign up for herself and do it? The only people that know that Bocchi is Guitar Hero is Najika. And Najika's not told anybody. So what do we do about this? Technically, they have 2 weeks to decide if they want to participate and apply. And then, honestly, an interview would do Bocchi some good. She'd freak out the entire time, but it'd be a good experience for her. And then, performing in front of the school. Is that how we're going to end our season? By Bocchi performing in front of the school? I don't know. But I'm glad that flyer, knowing I wasn't sure what this episode was going to give us because we just got off the band. And it's like, what else can we do? And so the beach episode that we needed and asked for was really fun to get. This was so funny. But also the idea that there's a culture festival. It's like, okay, cool. Well, we've done our first debut concert. Now let's do a school band function. And even if the four of them can't play together, Bocchi getting up playing in front of strangers, I feel would be less intimidating than playing in front of your classmates. I would think that'd be even more intimidating. So maybe we'll flesh ourselves out into a new horizon and try something new, or maybe we'll just have an anxiety-filled attack and not do any of it. So sky's the limit with Bocchi the Rock. So this episode was hilarious, and I absolutely loved it. So I'm super excited to hear what you all thought down below about this episode, and if there was any references that I missed, because I'm sure there were, and I'd love to hear them. So I can't wait to hear your comments down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. Hopefully this will look a lot better here in a little bit, but in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care, and I'll see you all again very soon with more Bocchi the Rock. Bye.